everyone, and welcome back to Mind Virgins, where psychology meets artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Sonwan, and today we are going to wrap up our season because it is our last episode. So sad, isn't it? Time flies. I started this podcast in March, but it is already the end of the June. This season, I touched upon how psychology in general could be integrated into AI. We've touched upon a lot of things, but first we touched upon how AI was developed and how psychological aspects were integrated into this. We talked about CASA paradigm, which was computer as social agents paradigm, and there was a key factor that was used in these kinds of AI psychology studies. And based on this CASA paradigm, a lot of researchers actually developed AI as something that is similar to a human, something that can interact and communicate with humans, similar to as being a human agent. So in our second episode, we touched upon how empathy and other factors such as human AI interaction are being made. So to first talk about human AI interaction, which is HI to abbreviate, people are researching on how external appearance, such as big eyes of a robot or some UI, such as user interface, and all those other things, such as a gesture, somehow height, a tone of their voice, affect a lot when it comes to making interaction with them. And also for empathy integrated into this AI field, we've talked about large language models in specific. So large language models, which is abbreviated as LLM, and for example, this is going to be some generative models such as ChatGPT or Gemini. These kinds of LLM methods are being used into psychological fields and into social support fields. So people nowadays, whenever they're stressed, they can just type their bad feelings onto GPT or this kinds of LLM, and then they're just going to give us some supporting response. So we actually don't have to go to the therapy unless it is really serious. Whenever we want to vent our negative emotions or somehow whenever we want to get some social support and get some empathetic response, we just have to type some questions and we just have to type my feelings right onto LLM. And then they're just going to give us some empathetic response. And when they're giving this response, they would go through some promptings, such as chain of empathy prompting. Chain of empathy was one of my guests, Yoon Kyung Lee's research. And this chain of empathy prompting actually follows chain of thought prompting. And it enables the AI to follow the step and then analyze how this writer, so the user's emotional state is, and then give an appropriate response that would really help them at that point. And for robotics, people find robots nonverbal cues such as eye movements, blinking, eye color changing, hand gesture, and head movements very effective when it comes to making relationship with them and also feeling empathetic, so feeling of understood. So all these kinds of factors should be considered whenever we are building a new agent, empathetic agent, or building a new empathetic AI. And that was what we've covered till our third episode. And in our fourth episode, we talked about motivation. How can AI motivate people? Because motivation is actually one of the key factors when it comes to doing something, empowering someone and encouraging someone to do something. And this motivation can just be about extrinsic motivation, such as giving rewards, but there should be some intrinsic motivation. So we have to genuinely make the users to really want to do something, so eager to do something by themselves, even when there's no reward. So that was the point what we've talked about in our fourth episode. We've talked upon how this AI could motivate people, and this was by empathetic response. It was really helpful whenever we are motivating the users, and also robots nonverbal behaviors such as oh, you're doing well, and then mimicking the humans, so the users interaction or head movement would really impact a lot. And in our fifth episode, we talked about how digital companions, so AI, could help the aging mind. So just to highlight again, aging minds course, can somehow be dependent because they may need help because of their like physical disabilities when they get older, like, such as like arthritis. When they have a serious arthritis, they may need some support, but not all older adults do. Like a lot of older adults these days are very healthy, which means that they are not dependent. They're also an independent being. And AI these days should consider these kinds of independence when it comes to be used in older adults. So for aging minds, these like AI and digital companions can be used in caregiving context and also in social participation context. When it comes to like caregiving context, they can like, of course, they can like focus on communication, like Hyodor, for example. Like those kinds of AI will just keep on talking with them. But when it comes to like social participation context, these kinds of AI should also motivate the older adults and the aging people to get up and do something. And they would also have to encourage them to go outside and engage with other people. And that was the like what we covered for our fifth episode. And for our last episode, we've covered about ethics, this which is really important these days. Of course, AI is really helpful. We don't have to like consider whenever my like counselor is sleeping or not, but we just have to type whatever I am concerning at that point, and then I get their response and their encouragements. It's really impactful, and it's kind of like a time saver. But um, there are ethical issues. We talked about like some transparency issues because we don't know whether this like AI would work in an appropriate way or not. Also, we don't know what data were used to like train them, and also there are like privacy issues as well. Are they keeping our privacy well? Maybe like they may be hacked because like there are a lot of like security issues these days. Can they genuinely believe on this AI or the model or the company where developed this AI so that we can like reveal all of my concerns to them? And also we've talked about some over reliance issue. Maybe using this AI is really nice and helpful, but these kinds of over reliance issues actually weakens our strength. So we should not depend a lot on this AI. And also, if you're having some severe like mental illness or like hardness, it would be better for us to go to meet a human counselor face to face or maybe on like on phone because these kinds of AI, although it seems very effective, actually doesn't have a certification. So whenever we are having some severe disease like mental illness or hurtness, go see a doctor. When you still want to use AI, go find an AI that was developed only for this like social support or mental support. Although they are not certificate just certified by the government or by the experts, but it would be much better to use rather than using a general model. So in our first season, we've touched a lot of these AI in psychology. So we started from the development of AI. Then we touched upon how like what kind of psychological aspects are being integrated into it. Then we also talked about like some specific contexts such as motivation and also like aging minds. And at last, we've talked about some ethical issues regarding this point. And I hope it helped you a lot. I was really happy making these videos and also this podcast for like about 3 months because I love this issue. AI is a like rising star, and I think psychology actually has to follow that trend as well. So I made this video to introduce you guys to the listeners about this point, but I also made this for me. I want to study in depth in these topics, and it really helped him a lot. And I hope it helped you guys also. So this was the end of my first season. I was really delightful to meeting you guys, and I hope you do well. And until my next video, still stay tuned and stay curious.